Good morning to one and all present here. We will start the webinar with invocation song.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, He will make a way. He will make a way. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, He will make a way. He will make a way.
Now, I request our director, Mr. Daniel Augustus, to welcome the gathering.
Thank you, Lima. Good morning. The BCom Honors Department of Loyola International Academic Collaboration and Loyola College extends a cordial welcome to all the participants of this national webinar, Impact of Artificial Intelligence on the Future of Finance. Artificial intelligence is intelligence demonstrated by machines, unlike the natural intelligence displayed by humans and animals, which involves consciousness and emotionality. AI can dramatically improve the efficiencies of our workplaces and can augment the work humans can do. Hence, in the face of challenging and ever-evolving business environments, an understanding of artificial intelligence and big data has become an essential component of a leader's skill set. Our warm welcome and sincere thanks to our eminent panelists who are experts from the industry, Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murali and C.A. Divya Abhishek, for taking time off from their busy schedule to share their experiences and insights with us. I'm sure every participant would find this webinar useful, engaging, and of immense value.
Thank you, sir, for introducing the guest. And now I request Professor Reena to introduce his guest speaker, Mr. Abhishek Murali.
Good morning, everyone. It's my immense pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker, Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murali, who hails from a freedom fighter family, has completed his undergraduate and postgraduate in commerce from Madras University. His drive towards education has stimulated him to complete various professional degrees like ACMA, LLB, CGMA, CIMA London, CISA USA, DISA ICAI, ADIT UK, DLIT. As you all know, he is a renowned chartered accountant. He is also a cost and management accountant and certified information auditor. He has also acquired various rankings, and few to mention, rank 1 in CIMA strategy exam and 17th rank in CIMA final examinations. He is also exclusively certified in international tax law and transfer pricing from Leiden University, Netherlands. He also has advanced diploma in international taxation with CIOT London. Sir is also qualified in the Independent Directors Databank Proficiency Test by Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. Sir is very passionate about startups and went on to establish a vertical to help mentor startups. He has been nominated 4 times in various committees constituted by ICAI. He is the youngest regional council member of SIRC of ICAI and has been elected to SIRC in 2 consecutive terms through polling with highest number of votes from Tamil Nadu. He is also elected as the Secretary of SIRC of ICAI for the year 2021 and holds the honor of youngest secretary elected so far. Sir has been nominated as chairman and as a member of various committees constituted by SIRC. So far, he has authored 5 books of his professional interest and many more to come in future. Apart from this, he has actively involved in various chambers of commerce and professional bodies. Currently, he is the part of Victoria Grace & Co. Dr. C.A. Abhishek Murali has organized and spoken at more than 1,500 seminars, workshops, and conferences. A multi-versatile personality, a leader, a sportsperson, author, speaker, motivator, and whatnot. Sir, I'm very happy to introduce you, and thank you so much for accepting our invite, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Reena, for introducing Abhishek Murali. Now I request Professor Minoti to introduce Mrs. Divya Abhishek, our next resource person for the day.
When we decided to host a webinar, our entire department unanimously decided that we should invite the dynamic trio of today. We had participated in many webinars during the pandemic, but yours were very practical and very impressive. So it is my great honor to introduce our next guest speaker, C.A. Divya Abhishek, who's currently the partner of DSNR & Co. Chennai. Ms. Divya has always been a topper from school days. So it's no surprise that she is All India 46th rank holder in the CA final examination and All India 23rd rank in ICSI examination. She's also secured All India 4th rank in the international taxation examinations conducted by CIOT. She has also qualified for the proficiency tests conducted by the independent directors by the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. She's a graduate of both law and commerce. Additionally, Ms. Divya has pursued various professional courses and internationally acclaimed diplomas to be a chartered accountant. She has wide experience and has audited and consulted for various listed companies, corporate MNCs, and high net worth individuals. Ms. Divya had led delegations to leading companies on accounting standards, ethics, and various other technical matters. She has also held various positions in the Southern Indian Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. What really stands out from her profile is her firm principle on giving back to the society. She has tutored and mentored several CA students who have become rank holders today and is a guest lecturer at various colleges and professional forums. The way they immediately accepted our request for today's event affirms this too. So ma'am has addressed over 500 conferences and seminars at this young age, which is so impressive. Besides her several academic and professional laurels, which would run into several pages, she's extremely passionate about women empowerment. Ms. Divya is the Secretary of the Women Professional Empowerment Forum of India. She arranges various awareness programs to nurture women's self-group. She's also the youngest ever president of the Inner Wheel Club of Madras Next Gen. Using this platform, she is working hard towards the upliftment and education of the underprivileged girl children. I think no one can do justice to both your profiles in just few minutes. Just going through it itself is a great motivation and inspiration to us. We are once again honored to have you both with us today, sir and ma'am. So we hand over the session towards you both, sir. We are waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a humbling introduction. Thank you very much.
Should we start with the address, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A very warm good morning to all the participants and delegates who joined in here today. The Director of LIAC, Professor Daniel Augustus, sir. The convener of the program, Dr. Lima Rose, ma'am. The organizing committee, Dr. Jerusha Irene Chitra, Professor Reena, and Professor Minoti. I have to, as very rightly said by the second speaker, thank Professor Reena and Professor Vinoti for such a lovely introduction. I think you embellished it much more than anything that we have done, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was very kind of you to give that sort of introduction. I feel very humbled and overwhelmed by the sort of introduction that you've given. So it's a great opportunity to always address in Loyola. I'm sure everyone who's watching knows Loyola is one of the most premier universities in all of India. And especially when it comes to the South, you're not going to look beyond Loyola. Always, whenever any student finishes their school, the first thought is, I want to get into Loyola. Then only they look at all the other options when it's in the southern part of India. So therefore, to have an opportunity to address the faculty, the students, in a program organized by Loyola College is something of a huge pride for me. So thank you for extending this opportunity for me. And this topic selected by the organizers is a very, very relevant topic. The choice of the topic itself, artificial intelligence in finance and the future of finance. Now, as I always said, 12 months back, we used to always say artificial intelligence is the future. Artificial intelligence is the future. We used to say blockchain is the future. We used to say we have to discuss this in the next few years. It's going to change how we do things. Ladies and gentlemen, that was 12 months back. And in the last 12 months, even your and I day-to-day life has changed. 12 months back, you would have never even visualized. You would have never visualized sitting in this webinar. You would have felt, I'd rather come to the college, I'd rather come to the campus, and I'd like to listen. So webinars itself was not accepted. Then slowly things started changing. How? I'll tell you how. Now, given the option between coming physically to watch or watching over here on YouTube or in a webinar mode, I think majority of people are comfortable with webinar. Why? I can sit in my shorts, t-shirt. I can have a cup of tea, biscuit, samosa, food. I can comfortably watch what I want to watch. I can stop if I want to. I can pause it. I can go back, talk to my family, come back again, sit and continue. Whereas I don't have any of these options physically. So today it has become the norm. Webinar has become the norm. And ladies and gentlemen, this is you and I, normal people. For us, when this has become a norm, such a massive change, what about huge corporates? What about societies and systems that impact the entire country? Even for them, things have moved on. Things have changed. So therefore, artificial intelligence, my dear friends, has become a very, very important part of the day-to-day discourse when it comes to businesses today. The meaning ABCD for finance people has changed. Now A means artificial intelligence, B means blockchain, C means cloud computing, and D means data mining and data analytics. So therefore, ABCD, the very fundamentals of what we have learned, has completely changed. So increasing public discourse, many of you may have heard it. The role of the finance, commerce, and accounts people will be extinct. Role of the finance, commerce, and accounts people will be extinct. Don't get scared. Many of us here are commerce graduates, including myself. So does that mean our job will be gone? 3 years we have put all the hard efforts. After great difficulty, we have got into Loyola College. We are going to graduate, and this fellow is coming and saying jobs will be extinct. My dear friends, before we proceed there, I have to ask a question. So many of you are active on the chats, so you can answer in the YouTube comments. How many people here use social media, either Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even TikTok? So how many of you here use this? You can say yes or no. I think it will be easier to get no answers rather than yes to this question. Even LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, any form of social media of Twitter, Instagram, anything. How many of you use it or how many of you don't use it? How many of you don't use any of this? So we are getting a lot of yes answers. Everyone saying, I do, yes. That's very good. So now, majority of the people have said yes. So let's do a social example. We'll try this out because you cannot do it right now, but I'll tell you something that I have done and you can try it at your end. All you have to do is say a name of a place or a product around your phone. I'm assuming most of you are accessing the social media using your phone. So therefore, around your phone, you have to do one thing. And I tried this person where I will never want to go to some strange place like Alaska. But just for the fun of it, I used to say around the home, oh, won't it be lovely to go to Alaska? I love the cold weather. The winters in Alaska are supposed to be beautiful. Isn't it such a wonderful place to visit? I heard it is somewhere in North America, a very cold place. So you start saying all this. Suddenly you'll find over the next 2 to 3 days, you'll be getting advertisements. Wherever you go, whatever you access on your phone, advertisements. Cheapest tickets to Alaska. Fly to Alaska in less than 40,000 rupees. So all of these sort of ads will start coming to you. Ladies and gentlemen, what does this mean? You try this yourself. Try with anything. You say, I feel like eating KFC. I feel like having a burger. I feel like going out and having dinner today. You repeatedly say this around your phone. Then suddenly you will start finding advertisements. Food related advertisements, pizza related advertisements, burger related advertisements, KFC related advertisements. So what is this? What is happening over here? How is the phone picking up what you're thinking? Sometimes you'll say, no, I was just thinking of this yesterday. Suddenly I'm getting an advertisement about this today. It's God telling me that I should go and have it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not God telling you. It is not God telling you. It is artificial intelligence. It is a fundamental thing that maybe your phone is listening in. Now, we are not going to talk about right to privacy, all that. That is a different argument. But the fact of the matter today is your phone, your apps, your Facebook, Insta, listen in on your conversations. So now the next question you will ask, what does this mean? Is there somebody sitting at that corner and listening to what I'm saying? Oh, this is what he's saying. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg, he's taking a list. He's saying KFC. He's saying Alaska. Quickly send him an update relating to KFC and Alaska. Is he going to do that? Is there somebody sitting there? And how many people can sit and note down these details? Physically, is it possible at all for someone to sit and note down? I'll put a headphones. I'll be listening to what 1,000 people are saying. I'll be making notes. And accordingly, I'll be sending advertisements. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not in that era. Because what will happen? How many people will sit? How many things can you note down? The results will not be good. And please remember, you're putting the efforts, but results also should matter. Not only efforts are important. Reminds me of the story where an auto driver and a priest, auto driver and priest, they die and they go to heaven. So first the priest, he walks up to God, who's at the gates of the heaven, and he's saying, God, yes, I have died. So welcome, my son. You have been preaching the God's name, my name, for more than 40 years every day in your life. You have done such great service. So once you go into heaven, I am giving you a wonderful single bedroom house with an attached bathroom. He says, thank you, Lord. Thank you so much. Then he says, please wait. There's an auto driver behind you. Both of you can go together. He says, Mr. Auto Driver, please come forward. Yes, my Lord. For 40 years, you have been a drunkard and you have been driving the auto very rashly, putting the lives of so many people at risk. Once you go inside the gates of heaven, you are getting an individual bungalow with 5 bedrooms, attached swimming pool, and two nurses to take care of you. Immediately the priest is appalled. He says, wait. My dear Lord, for 40 years I have been preaching your name. How come you are giving me a single bedroom house, but you are giving this man 5 bedroom attached house with a swimming pool? And Lord says, my dear son, see, efforts are important, but results are also important. When you were preaching, everybody was sleeping. But when he was driving, everybody was praying. So therefore, I think he deserves more. Now, this is on a lighter sense. But the fact still remains where you can put great efforts, but your results need to match up to the point. If somebody individually, a human, is sitting and doing all the work that we discussed with you, naturally there is a scope for human error. There is a scope of quality degrading and the target not being achieved. And this is precisely when human intelligence or artificial intelligence, computers and programming step in. Now, it's not only simple things like getting advertisements for you and I. Even at the higher end, detecting frauds, they could have been avoided by the use of technology. Satyam scandal, one of India's biggest corporate frauds. Even them, if there was artificial intelligence way back in 2005, 2007, when the scam broke out, ladies and gentlemen, the scam could have been caught in a moment like this. Why? Blockchain and artificial intelligence could have checked whether the real income was there or not, whether the bank balance was there or not. What happened in Satyam? In Satyam, they had inflated the bank balances. They had said they are getting fixed deposit interest from fixed deposit which did not exist. And not only that, they were so smart, that tax that you have to pay on the income. I'm getting 100 rupees income, I have to pay 30 rupees tax. When I'm not getting the income, how will I pay the tax? Only if I earn, I can pay the tax. No. But Satyam, what they did not earn the income. They showed as if they earned the income, but they still paid the tax. 30 rupees tax they went and paid on income they did not earn at all. So therefore, they are covering all their tracks. Ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence would have done one thing. It would have coordinated, saying whether bank balance as per your books and blockchain concept of the bank books, if you check it, it will match. No. Instead, people are forging documents, they're covering it up, and it could not be found out. Now, it is not just the Satyam scandal. What about insurance scams? Insurance scams could have been prevented also. It's a very famous story in the US. There's a gentleman. His name is Michael Daylook. Michael Daylook. What did this Michael Daylook do? He was working in a wood chopping company. They used to chop wood and they used to put it into the machines for cutting, etc. So this person, he had taken insurance on his health and his life. And suddenly, in one very unfortunate incident, he lost his right arm to the wood cutting machine. While he was working there, he said he lost his arm. And he submitted all his medical documents, other documents. He took a photo of him there, the shirt. He did not have the hand inside the shirt. And the insurance company has been paying him year on year. For 25 years, they were paying. Till artificial intelligence came about. So why did artificial intelligence suddenly come and change things? Why did they stop paying him? Artificial intelligence did one simple thing. They were scanning all their old documents. They were scanning all the old documents and uploading it in the portal. Suddenly, once artificial intelligence came, it did one thing. The signature as per the original life insurance submission, when he made the application, was the exact same signature as per the medical records when he is submitting the claim. Now, ladies and gentlemen, normally if I sign my signature itself, every time it will vary. This gentleman, he has lost his writing arm and he is still signing the exact signature, it seems. And this is being approved by normal humans. All artificial intelligence did is compare. Now, how is it possible? It's the exact same signature match. But the claim reason is he's lost his writing arm, he's lost his main arm. Then how is it matching exactly? It flagged off suspicion. So immediately humans went and they started checking. And when they checked, they found out that actually it is a fraud. This man is hiding his hand inside his shirt and is having that loose shirt arm waving around. But actually his hand is inside only. When they went to his house, he was drinking a cup of coffee from his right arm, which he said he is apparently lost. So ladies and gentlemen, you might think this is all funny, but these are all true stories which have happened in day-to-day life. Artificial intelligence is changing how we do business. Humans cannot do it at the same quality, but artificial intelligence will do it. Now let's come back. Let us come back to my original statement. Will finance and commerce professionals be extinct? Will that happen? Or no matter what technology comes, we will continue to be there and our role can never be replaced? See, the true answer is somewhere in the middle. It's not here, it's not there, it's in the middle. You can ask your parents' generation or your teacher's generation. They would have experienced this at some point in their lifetime, where suddenly computers became commonplace. In the early 1990s, computers did not exist very commonly. It was a luxury. Then suddenly in the mid-1990s, there was a tech boom and computers became available at a fraction of its original cost. So computers became commonplace in the workplace. So what happened? Lots of people, they faced risks of losing their jobs. And what happened? I still remember my uncle at the time. He's a leading manager of a leading company in Chennai. And he was facing protests from his staff because they were all opposing using computers. They said, you should not bring computers. We will lose our job. So what happened? Did everybody lose their job because of the computers? How do you and I use computers today? I told you the answer is always down the middle. those people who adapted to computers and improved their way of working immediately found ways to enhance their work. What do I mean? If you say, I don't want computer, I will not use Excel and all. You give me a calculator, 1,000 line items, I'll put in the calculator and do it. Will that person survive, or will the person using Excel survive? In Excel, he is going to get the answer in less than 1 second. That person in the calculator, after spending 1 hour, it's possible he'll have the wrong answer also. So therefore, it's a very simple example. But this is a real time thing that happened to real people during the 1990s. So ladies and gentlemen, if we can learn to use technology to improve the quality, efficiency, and the output of your work, you will find that we can successfully deal with technology. So always remember to turn a challenge into an opportunity. And I always get reminded of the Cadbury story when I tell this. What is the Cadbury story? Way back in 2003, I was still in school at that time, where Cadbury faced a major crisis in India. How many of you remember there were photos of worms inside the Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate? When you take that Dairy Milk chocolate, suddenly worms were there. This happened in 2 instances across the country, and it became a huge media furor. It was there in all the newspapers, all the leading TV news channels were talking about it. So eventually what happened? Now Cadbury had 2 options. When they examined the thing, they found that the error was not on Cadbury's fault. That stockist who was keeping the goods, he was keeping it in a warehouse which was not correctly cemented. So therefore, a lot of insects started invading the boxes, and therefore there were worms inside the chocolate. It was not at the end of Cadbury. So Cadbury had 2 options. One, they could have taken full legal action and sued everybody who was creating these false news and fake news, who are saying that there are worms in Cadbury. So that was the first option they had. Second option, they said, let us turn this challenge into an opportunity. What did they do? They did the second option, where they said, yes, it is a risk. What are we going to do? They said, we are bringing a gold foil wrapper. In Dairy Milk, if you have, once you open the main cover, there'll be a gold foil inside. Only if you tear that open, you can eat that chocolate. That gold foil is there only in India. Go to US, go to UK, Australia, anywhere else in the world, you will not find that gold foil. So in India, they introduced saying, yes, the risk of worms is there, but now you got the gold foil. Nothing can go inside. Even if they try also, they cannot go inside the chocolate. So therefore, put a gold foil. Then they said, we will take Amitabh Bachchan, who was at that time the most trustworthy face of India. We'll take Amitabh Bachchan. We'll make him carry his granddaughter to all the Cadbury factories and eat the chocolate out of the line without testing it. And there were a lot of advertisements where she'll go, she'll try the chocolate and she'll say, excellent, it is very safe, etc. So therefore, suddenly, a company which was on the brink of extinction and facing financial crisis in India turned around that everyone said, Cadbury only is the safest now, I don't want to buy other chocolates. So their market position became far superior to what it was before this crisis. And that is a fundamental example of turning a challenge into an opportunity. My dear ladies and gentlemen, my dear students, you are all going to be facing this challenge where adopting technology is now an option. It is no longer mandatory, it is an option. But that option needs to be exercised so that in the future, when you are facing the challenge of extinction, you should say confidently, I know how to use it. I will use it to my advantage. And that opportunity exists today. And I think our next speaker will be touching upon very, very specific examples as to how you need to take use of this artificial intelligence, practical scenarios of how you can empower yourself and upskill yourself. So with this, I'd like to thank all the organizers and all the listeners and viewers for very patient listening. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Over to the second speaker, C.A. Divya.
Thank you, Abhishek, for setting the right tone for the session for today. I'd like to start off by apologizing and also thanking all of you for being patient and still continuing to be through the session. In fact, it's 12 o'clock now, but I still see 200 of you viewing this, and that's a huge round of applause for all of you for being patient and understanding the challenges that technology can pose on all of us. Now, this impact of digital technologies is prevalent in every spectrum of our lives. So consequently, the current era is something that we call as a digital age. But I want to ask all of you a question. Does this mean this is new to us? This artificial intelligence, do you think it's a new concept? The answer to this is no. Artificial intelligence is something that's been there for over 60 years now, but it's more apt in today's world because it's growing at a very, very fast pace. Now, take the example 10 years back, we used to have CDs, and then it transitioned into using USBs. Today, we have Bluetooth, email, cloud, where it takes nanoseconds to just quickly transfer data. Take your Apple Watch. Now, typically, people wore a watch to track time. But today, with your digital watch, you can track steps, you can see the time, you can see who's calling you on your phone, who's messaging. So, every application today is so multifaceted that it combines so many aspects and makes it easier for us to live. Take your mobile banking. No longer we need to look at our wallet, no longer we need to go to ATM to withdraw cash. We can quickly transfer through Google Pay. WhatsApp is coming up. In fact, just few months back, I vividly remember listening to this TED Talk where Apple had shown us a report which had about 1 million user data crunched into one screen. A very common question that they had asked is, how long did you think it took for us to gather this data? How many people were there? All of us naturally guessed saying Apple had their own department and they analyzed this data and that's how they produced it. But the answer really shocked us. They said it took 1 minute for them to get that crunching and to get the report. So if there is one technology that is really paying rich dividends today, is artificial intelligence in finance. Let us take our own example during the COVID era. Did we all stop watching movies? The answer is no. Just because theaters were shut down, it didn't stop us from using entertainment and watching movies. We watch it through Netflix, we watch it through Hotstar, we watch it on YouTube. So today's world is going at a very fast pace where technology, data, and the time is the most critical factor. One way where artificial intelligence is already being put to use is in the banks. Now, generally, if any of us need to go apply for a credit card, we have to go to the bank, we have to submit a form, then the bank will come back and ask us to show us our historical track record, our financial statement, income tax return file. Multiple requests are being made, and after about 2 weeks, they will let us know how much our credit limit is. But today, my friends, banks are efficiently using AI, where as soon as you walk into the bank, they'll be able to produce a report and tell you what your credit limit is. They have a specific team, a specific software to track everyone's credit rating, and based on that, credit cards are being issued. That's how pervasive it is in the financial sector today. Now, there's another popular aspect of AI that has come out, which is called as financial services chatbots, where anyone, even if you go today and check some website where you want to buy something, immediately you have a chat box coming up asking you the regular questions. You're no longer chatting to a customer service agent, where we used to live in the era even in 2000s, where India was sprawling. You had so many BPO centers, so many customer service agents who will be making calls to ensure it is being okay. Today, everything is slowly transitioning into a chatbot aspect, into technology, where there is no human interface. It is only a machine-to-machine interaction. A very popular AI usage that happened a few years back is Alibaba through its fintech division. What they started doing is they started installing cameras in the cabs. Now you might think, why should the driver accept? They gave the driver some incentive and they started installing this. What did they do with it? They went and sold this to insurance companies, where if anyone made a claim saying there's an accident, they could actually check the footage through the cab service. They could actually use various data analytic aspects. So it's a very interesting way in which AI has started being used. They started creating specific apps for each sector, especially in the commerce sector, which is growing at an unbelievably fast pace. So you might ask me this question, do you mean that we have to unlearn finance and pursue a career in digital or engineering aspect? It's a very, very common question that we come across from various students. I'd like to highlight an example that happened in ancient India. It is popularly called as a Cobra effect, and it's used in microeconomics as well. So what happened in ancient Delhi was suddenly there was an outbreak of many cobras in the city. So the king was very worried because it was causing some deaths. So he sent his minister to find out. The minister came back and said, there are 1,000 cobras in the loose. It's very, very concerning. People are losing lives. So the king immediately said, anyone who brings to me a cobra that is dead will get 2 gold coins. So he was very proud of himself. He felt he had solved the issue immediately. So many people started coming. They started bringing the dead cobras, and he was handing out this gold coins. Now 2 months elapsed, and suddenly he said, "Ma'am, I think you need to mute." Yeah. So suddenly, after 2 months, the king noticed that the gold coins were getting over, but still people were bringing dead cobras. He was very surprised because he said, "Minister, you told me there were only 1,000 cobras, but I've given all my gold coins away." So he sent his minister back again to check. Then his minister came back and said, "My lord, what they have done, there are a lot of cobra breeders now in the city. They're breeding cobra so that they can kill it and bring it and get more gold coins." Now the king was very, very upset. He said, "This is not right." Immediately he passed out an order and said he's going to stop issuing gold coins to anybody. What happened? Immediately all the breeders, they had no incentive to grow the cobra, make it plump, feed it, then kill it and bring it to the king. So they released the cobras into the city, and there were more than 2,500 deaths. This is a real life scenario, my friends. So what you need to remember, just because a challenge has come out, immediately reacting to it and creating a fear is not the right way. Any decision made out of impulse may not always be the right one. In fact, as students of today, who is going to be the voice of tomorrow, the leader of tomorrow's world, you should embrace this AI into your system and understand how best you can integrate it to what you are doing today and what you're going to learn and how you're going to make use of it. So I have 5 very, very specific tips that I think will be of use to all of you. The first and foremost, as students, be familiar with the trends in technology. We're no longer living in a world where we can say, "I do not want technology, I'm not comfortable with it." I think it's very important to embrace it and how fast moving the world is and to find solution for the tasks that are there. Now, the previous speaker rightly spoke about Excel, Google Sheets. So this is something that as students you need to be aware of, especially in the field of commerce, in the field of finance, accounting. Please be abreast with how to use these various tools that are there available with you today. How to use Google Sheets, because when you use a Google Sheet, multiple people can work on the same document, which enables quick sharing and passing of information. Learn the shortcut tools, learn how to use PowerPoint. All these are very, very basic skills that can go a really long way in your life. Take a quick crash course on ERP software. Now, ideally, most companies are using Tally, there's SAP, Zoho, QuickBook, but net to net, the basics of the software is always going to be the same. So by enabling and equipping yourself to learn one such software during the course of your college will really help you go a long way. Now you might ask me, "I don't have time to go for classes." But what if I were to tell you today, the world where everything is through the computer, you have free courses that are being offered by these companies. So go check online and just enroll yourself into one, and then you'll automatically get more abreast with how to use these tools for your future. The third aspect definitely is to improve your data analytical skills. Today, it's all about how you interpret data. Now, data is available in plenty. The real world data is very, very messy and noisy. So you need to learn how to read data, how to best analyze and track it. It is all about these analytics. The example that I told you, the credit card, it was all about how they had the data beforehand, before the person even came to the bank, and how well they had analyzed it to save time from their end as well. The fourth and most important aspect, in my view, is to hone your communication skills. Listening to podcasts, reading more books, reading your everyday paper will help you go a really long way over the course of your time. It will help you analyze where is the world heading, what are the current trends that are there. You should be able to read the good blogs on data analytics, research papers in this area. Everything is there. In fact, you'll be surprised to know there are only about 3 lakh people who are there in the jobs of AI. It is so new today that it's an untapped market. So if you're someone who's innately interested in understanding these trends, who wants to try something new, this is definitely a career option for you. The last aspect, of course, is going to be learning the technology that is relevant to your career. Now, please remember, friends, in every industry, in every area, there is a new technology that is coming. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all of you need to be aware of all of this. For example, when I told you that they were tracking crimes, they were tracking insurance rate through these Uber drivers, technology has improved so much that today we have so many cyber crimes coming up. So if you're someone interested in forensics, interested in that aspect of tracking fraud, you can check those kind of technology. If you're someone who's interested in accounting, I've already said, learn your Tally, learn your data mining tools, learn how to interpret it. So there is some technology in every area of your interest which you should understand and see how to best explore. You can learn digital marketing. Today, everybody is on Instagram, is it not? So ensure that you learn how to use it, how to see those tools as well. So I'd like to conclude today by saying it is definitely better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. During these times of uncertainties, when the world itself is shifting to a new phase, you have the candle in your hand in the form of digitization. Embrace it, take the leap forward and adapt really well to the new world. Thank you so much. All the very best to all of you. We'd love to take questions if you have any. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek and Mrs. Divya, for the eye-opening and enriching session. Now it's time for the audience to place the questions in the chat box. Dr. Jerisha will moderate the Q&A session. Over to you, Jerisha.
Good morning, Mr. Abhishek and Ms. Abhishek. Thank you for the eye-opening session on artificial intelligence in the future of finance. We have one question from Daniel, second-year student of BCom Honors. Wouldn't AI give scope for more frauds to occur? So, anybody can take it up, ma'am or sir?
I can take that up. So,
okay,
will AI give more scope for frauds? I think, let me put it this way. Anytime you come up with any type of new technology, there's also a new risk that comes associated with it. It's not necessarily only with something as complex as AI. It can be something very simple also. When checks came about, people thought cash frauds will reduce. Then what happened? Check fraud started. People started forging signatures. People started pretending to make checks at home itself. So what did they do next? They came up with a magnetized checkbook to try to prevent that. So generally, companies and law enforcement agencies are always chasing. There's never a case when people are ahead. We're always chasing. So definitely there is a new scope of risk associated with AI, but there are also new opportunities for you to test the risk, to find out the risk and minimize the risk. So along with the opportunity, along with the threat comes an opportunity.
Yes, thank you, sir. I think, Daniel, you would have been clear with that. And the others also, if you had this question in mind. So we have one more question from Dhruv, the first-year BCom Honors student of Loyola. Will the level of employment in an economy has to be compromised with the greater need for AI?
So I think this is a very common fear that is there in everyone's mind, and I want to bust this myth and say definitely not. Maybe the scope of the employment will change. For example, earlier we used to have mailmen who used to take the post, put it in the post box, come back. Then emails came about where you started having data operators. So it is just how we are evolving with time. There's definitely not going to be a compromise on the employability. You still need manual intervention to understand and interpret the data that is coming and making it useful for others. So the scope of your employment will change while the opportunity itself will definitely not reduce.
So yes, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. One more question. AI as a tool to financial inclusions. How would you comment on this, ma'am? AI as a tool to financial inclusions.
AI as a tool for financial inclusions. I think I don't understand the question, but maybe if I can try to interpret it, maybe the student is asking if AI can be used a way to include the marginalized persons in society financially. Is that what it is?
Yes, sir, exactly.
So I think AI can play a very key role, because I think something many of you may have been following, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, a lot of the leading business people, and even the leaders of many countries, they have been talking about something known as universal basic income. Universal basic income, where every person in the country will be given some amount of money as a universal basic income for them to meet their basic needs of shelter, food, and taking care of the basic clothing, etc. Now, this concept itself is something I think which warrants very serious discussion. probably it's a little early to do that, but maybe in the next 15 years, we may start seeing this become a reality. So therefore, AI eventually will play a key role, because I think when you have a world full of billions and billions of people, how are you going to track it manually? So AI is definitely going to play a key role here.
Yes, sir. We have one more question from Nupendra, first year. To what extent do you predict that AI will be replacing jobs? Has it started happening already?
So as I already said, AI is something that is new, but it has also been evolving over the course of the years. While it has helped many businesses turn around and do quicker report turning, crunching, data crunching, it has not replaced jobs per se. So you will still have the requirement, just that your profile will probably change from a basic data entry operator to a data entry interpreter. So to that extent, the role that you will have in the organization, but your job per se is still going to be intact.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Are current financial regulations adequate for overseeing AI-driven industry? Are current financial regulations adequate for the overseeing artificial intelligence-driven industry? So it's been asked by Lokeshwar, the first-year student.
Yeah, I think it's still developing. As I told you, we're always chasing, so it's still developing.
Okay, so one more question. Shreyansh is asked from the first year, would AI result in winner-take-it-all situations and increase monopolies?
I think, in fact, it'll do the opposite.
Okay. Yes, Shreyansh? One more question from Vaitishwar. He's asked, how soon can we expect a centralized AI regulation set up in the finance sector, like, for example, a common accounting check for the entire corporate?
So we're definitely looking at today itself being soon. A lot of companies are currently changing their systems to incorporate these AI tools on hand that they have, and we're definitely seeing a lot of development in that front in today's world itself. So by soon, I think we do mean today.
Yes, sir. One more question from Deepak. Is a course in artificial intelligence better than doing an MBA?
As I told you, I think you have to see how to use technology along with your other skills. In my view, as it stands, doing a course on artificial intelligence itself may not make you employable. I think the wise thing would be do your MBA and the course on artificial intelligence. So that may be a good step in the right direction.
And
Yes,
also to add, there are a lot of certificate courses. There's a lot of courses available online to you. You go check Coursera or just Google AI courses. You'll be quickly able to do these short courses to see if you're interested in it before you take the big dive into doing it full time as well.
Okay. Does AI and neural learning affect human touch and relationship? If yes, how can we tackle it?
So it does affect to some extent in terms of your manual intervention at every step along the way. So how we can tackle it as the leaders of tomorrow is to be abreast with it and also to contribute in that process of how speedily you're able to adapt to it and still contribute and be valuable to an organization.
Okay, ma'am. We have one question from Mr. Victor. Does AI fundamentally change how the finance industry serves the economy? Does AI fundamentally change how the financial industry serves the economy?
Yeah, I think, as we've always said, the fundamentals are going to remain the same. I don't think the fundamentals are going to change, but the procedures will change. How you do your fundamentals will change. So while, whatever you're studying will still remain the same, how you're going to work on it is definitely going to change. And that's something we have to keep updated and abreast about.
Okay, sir. Thank you. We have one question from Professor Prabhakaran Rajkumar. The AI is spoiling human intelligence. Do you agree?
I think it's accelerating the human intelligence than spoiling it. It is a very, very fine area of expertise, and it's created only because we're very intelligent human beings who are working towards doing that. So it's definitely the case.
Okay, we have another question, ma'am. Would AI cause a risk of economic divide?
I think that risk is definitely going to be there, which means there is the chance of rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. That fear is there, but we can only hope that whenever it is implemented at a full-fledged level, they're able to factor in these inequalities.
Okay, sir. We have one question from Mr. Ram. AI is used in a lot of sectors. Which sector do you personally think has maximum advantage?
Definitely finance, in my view.
Okay, thank you, sir. Definitely the finance sector. We have one question from Mr. Sadak. Who would be responsible for the AI's action, if any, would cause damage on high significance?
So that's going to be very industry specific as well. But like we had said, with opportunities, the challenges are also going to go hand in hand, and we're seeing a lot more cyber crimes, huge loss monetarily as well. But everybody's working towards mitigating these risks and solving the problem.
Yes, we have one question from Stephen Matthew. How advanced is India in the Industrial Revolution 4.0 when compared to developed countries?
I think we're catching up. We're not as behind as many people think. In fact, our infrastructure is very good. Cost of internet is one of the lowest in the world. The speeds are very good. So I think we're catching up. We're going in the right direction, and we will see in the next few years how India can play a very key role in the next few years. We have the most qualified and equipped people. So I don't doubt that we'll be able to do well.
Okay, sir. We have one question from Sashank. What role can AI play in aviation industry?
Maybe we might live in a world tomorrow where we won't have pilots as well, and AI will be able to operate your own flight. So the sky is the limit with that.
Okay. I think, ma'am, we can have one last question. Will developing countries be able to cope with the changes that will be brought about by the prevalence of AI as compared to developed countries?
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be country specific. Take India, for example, we're very culturally different from many other countries. Our requirements are different. Just because US is doing something doesn't mean that we can just implement it as is where is. Every country will have to implement it in their own style. But as far as other developed countries go, I think India is in the best position right now. India and China are definitely at a better position than the others.
So what will be the number of years for us to implement this? Any predictions, sir? There's a question from Bomik.
I think the next few years. It has to be soon.
Okay, maybe in the near future. Okay, sir. Would you have time to take up one more question, sir?
Yeah, we can take up one last question.
Okay. Yes, we have a question from Mr. Vignesh Kumar. If AI evolves, will that be able to predict stock markets and create artificial buyers and sellers to determine its own market?
I think any attempt to predict the stock market will make the computer explode. I don't think that's possible at all. I mean, that's on the light or not, but I'm sure people will try. Maybe Sia Divya can weigh in.
Okay,
so
I think yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So trading is one area where AI is extensively being used because it's all about data and predictability. And like Abhishek had rightly said, while we might not be able to get the exact formula of what is going to do well, we'll definitely have more improvements on how to analyze stocks or how a specific trend is going in the market more clearly.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. Now, I invite Dr. Lima Rose, convener and coordinator, BCom Honors, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Jirisha. My apologies for the technical issues which happen in our college. All good things come to an end, so is the webinar. So on behalf of Loyola College, I take this opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty for making today's webinar a grand success. At the outset, I thank our resource persons, Mr. Abhishek and Mrs. Divya, for enlightening us with the knowledge and presence. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. And moreover, thank you for handling Q&A session very patiently. I would like to thank the college management, our rector, Reverend Dr. Francis Xavier, Secretary, Reverend Dr. Selvanayagam, our principal, Reverend Dr. Thomas, our deputy principal, Dr. Melchias Gabriel, Mr. Daniel Augustus, Director, LIAC, vice principals and the officials of our college for the continuous support, motivation and guidance. Our gratitude to all the participants from various colleges and industries for their active participation. I extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizing committee, teaching and non-teaching staff, and technical assistants. Our heartfelt thanks to our students for the active participation. With these warm words and kind message, we end up this session. Good day. Thank you.